friends. Welcome to the Build and Run podcast, build-run.com. This is a real VR podcast for Unity developers. We're here at NYU ITP. Basically, if you are going to the greatest institution on earth, NYU, and you want to study VR, you're going to go to NYU ITP. It's their program for awesomeness in virtual reality. We are here at VRLNY, VR Lab New York, hashtag VRLNY, and this is part 3 of John Benton's Unity Bootcamp, where we literally start learning Unity from scratch, get a little background on some of 360 video and some of the other stuff, and get right into it. We are now going to, without further ado, let John take over for part 3.
Okay, so when you create a blank Unity project, by default it has a main camera in it, it also has a light, and I just put a plane in here. You don't have to worry about that, okay? I want to go over the top menu, okay? So basically, and we all know this stuff, the file menu is, where you create new things. The edit object, or the edit menu is basically where you manipulate things. But what I want to talk to you about is the assets, game object, and components. Everything, as I showed you before, there are a lot of different ways to bring projects into Unity. I'll be showing you the asset store in a moment. Everything you download from that, or everything when you start your new Unity project, you're importing things as packages. You can also save your work and share your work as packages. So you can export things, and it basically is a Unity project just bundled up together, okay? So, but the way that Unity thinks is it thinks in terms of everything in Unity is an object. It's a thing, okay? Even empty game objects. We create empty game objects in Children to organize objects, okay? These things in here, my main camera, my directional light, these are objects. When I click on my main camera, for example, you see in the inspector, I have these different kinds of attributes, or these different components that are on that object. Every object is an empty object consisting of components. And this is actually kind of critical to really, really work with Unity. You have to really understand that everything in Unity, the way that Unity thinks is it thinks in terms of objects and then different components that you put onto that, okay? The components are basically different scripts or different mesh objects. So this main camera has a component that's called transform. This is where it exists in space. So I can change its positions, or I can read its positions accordingly. Then it has this other component that's known as a camera, and it's filled with different things. Then I've got a whole slew of different other things, like a GUI layer that every camera has. So these are all things that are all built in. But I can also add components to it. I can add a slew of components via through my inspector. Now this is showing audio because that's what I was. So it shows you a whole slew of different things. It's the same, that object, that get-component object, is the same thing as the component menu up here. So we put game objects in through our game object menu. So for example, I can create a cube. And these are just the basic kind of primitive objects that we have in here, okay? But there's really nothing, I get no modeling. I get only just the basics. I can put cubes, I can do 2D objects, I can work with audio, cameras, lights, different things like that, okay? And then I can add components to it. So if, for example, let me just show you a very fast example. Here's my cube, and I'm going to press play. My playhead is at the whole top of my Unity project. Now nothing is happening because nothing's been lined up to happen. So, but my Unity project is not going to unfold until I press that play button. If I were to take that cube that I just made, and if I were to apply a component to it, like for example some physics or a rigid body component to it, I would be telling the world to basically treat it like a physical object. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put a component on here that's under physics, and I'm going to call it a rigid body component. Now, I'm showing you this not to show it to you, but to show it to you in theory. This is basically applying components to objects. So I've got a rigid body component in here, and now, let's see, I think it's done that correctly. Now my box drops. So now my box, boom. And you can see it bounces. So now physics are applied to my object, right? And this is going to be true for everything. So does that whole component and or object and component thing make sense? It'll become intuitive. I wish somebody had told that to me the first time. I was like, component? What's a component? What's an object? Right? So this is just a really nice, simple example. It's very easy to get things to just start working in Unity. So I'm going to delete my cube. Now, whoops, that was a name, not a thing. Boom. Now, as we continue, under window here, there are a couple of, there are obviously things that we have open. And I'll be going over a lot of these other different windows. But the ones that I'm going to also cover, that I'm going to cover here right now, one is the asset store. Now, your asset store is connected. If you're connected online, your asset store that appears in Unity is the same thing if you go to Unity 3D. Yep. Okay, so here's the unity3d.com thing. Now, I just want to point out that there are great Learn tutorials here. One of the things that Unity has done is they give you projects, full projects to download and reverse engineer. They also have tons and tons of video tutorials and live training sessions that are very easily accessed right through there. Okay. Also, YouTube something. If you've got like some little thing like how do you get a rigid body to work? YouTube it. Or ask a mentor. Lex knows everything.
Only on Mondays.
So these are really, really great things. Also, there is one of the things here too is a new virtual reality Learn section. Okay, so there's a VR Unity demo that you can download here as well, and tons of tutorials. And these give you, very easy to use kinds of things that you can just build to cardboard very fast. And then, because it's free, you can just manipulate the assets and call it your own, right? No. I mean, that's not a bad thing. Like, that's the way we learn. We learn by borrowing. We learn by taking like scripts and formats that people have used and recreating them in our own way. That's fine.
If you jump onto the VR tutorial first, you will be lost unless you already have some. There's other ones, like the space shooter. If you go through that on your own time, you will have an introduction to Unity where you'll know your way around and you'll have pretty much everything you need to keep learning. But don't jump to that first, no matter how how much the temptation is, or you will give up.
There are beginner tutorials.
We need to take breaks in? Okay. How are we doing on time?
We got like 15
really?
minutes.
Okay, great. Okay. So
show them the asset store and then we'll cut it.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm gonna just do the asset store. So the other thing here is the asset store. Now, as we learn, so this thing in Unity, or this thing online is the same window in Unity, right? So the thing that's great here is when you downloaded Unity, you had to create an account, right? So it knows who you are, and it knows when you either buy or download things here in the web, it will open them up in Unity. Okay? So what these things are everything from 3D models to full games to scripts. So half of them, or not half of them, but a lot of them are free. And a lot of people also make a lot of money from Unity, from building Unity assets. So as we proceed throughout the course of this day and in the future, I want to get you guys working with new Unity projects with downloading assets from the asset store. Okay? So we'll get into that more later, but this is a really great thing at your disposal. In fact, if you search free here, you're going to get everything, right? Everything that's free. So, search 3D model. And you're going to get tons of things, okay? Unity Chan.
It's a great model right there.
It's a great model.
Fully animated with 30 animations. It's a beautiful girl and model, and it's made by Unity. It's made by the pros that made Unity to work perfectly with Unity. So if you're looking to have a character in your game, and you don't want to pay for a character, bam, there's a great model for you. And there's actually like a Christmas version of Unity Chan. Awesome. And they make this for you to use in video games.
Yeah, Unity Technologies. If you do a search for Unity Technologies, it's going to show everything that Unity has done. No, wait, I hate this.
It's also like Unity Essential sometimes.
Where is the fucking...
Yeah, there you go. Click on.
Which one?
Click on right there, the publisher.
Yeah, there we are. Okay, Unity
Bam.
Technologies. So all of this stuff is like incredible. The VR samples, standard assets. I mean, tons and tons of things. Some are full games. Some of things are just models. Some are great things. So start playing there. Like that's a great way to learn. Okay. So let's take a short break. Dakota, how long should the break be? 10 minutes. All right.
Awesome. Wait, before
How
everybody
you guys
goes,
doing? Any questions?
let's make some noise for John B., the Unity Bootcamp instructor. Yeah! Come on, more noise! More noise! The camera picks up all noise. Awesome.
11:30. 1:30.
Hold on. This has been the part 3 of the Unity Bootcamp at VR Lab NY, hashtag VRLNY.
If you have questions, come up and get me now.
Awesome. This has been another episode of Build and Run Podcast brought to you by VRVU.com. Full service VR production as chaos ensues. You are a part of it. Join us for the next episode, episode 4, as everybody gets back together. Thank you for listening.